Hello, and welcome to episode 10 of the Unspoken Rules podcast. I am your host, Sebastian, aka Rabbit, and I'm here with my co-host, Montana, aka Wildcard. How you doing, brother?
Not so great after the Clippers game last night, but I'm sure we'll get into that as we get later into the show.
Of course, we definitely will be getting into those games. But last night was an interesting one. I don't know if you were able to watch that Sixers game, but I was surprised about some of these outcomes last night. But like I said, we'll definitely get into it, as well as obviously previewing this big game tonight with the Nuggets and the Suns. Little shout out to Nikola Jokic, as he was just announced NBA's MVP. But yeah, we'll definitely get into it. Take it away, brother.
All right, so we have the Philadelphia 76ers tying the series against the Atlanta Hawks, one game apiece, winning 118-102. Trae Young did not have a very great game yesterday. Only had 21 points, 11 assists, 3 rebounds in 38 minutes. Bogdanovich had 14 points, 2 assists, and 7 rebounds. Kevin Huerter had 20 points, 2 assists, and 2 rebounds. Danilo Gallinari had 21 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 assists. And some notable players that did not play very well yesterday were John Collins and Clint Capella. Did not have their usual games or that they're accustomed to. As far as the Philadelphia 76ers go, Joel Embiid puts up 40 big, gigantic points for the Philadelphia 76ers. He had 13 rebounds and 2 assists to go along with that in 35 minutes of gameplay. Seth Curry had another 20-point game, had 21 points, 2 assists. Ben Simmons, Jesus Christ, only had 4 points, 7 assists, and 3 rebounds, but I guess they didn't need to score the ball with him that much. Tobias Harris had 22 points, 4 assists, and 6 rebounds. So, Sebastian, what do you think about the Philadelphia 76ers taking it to the Atlanta Hawks in Game 2? And are the Atlanta Hawks going to bounce back in Game 3?
First things first, yes, I think they do bounce back. You know what I'm saying? Trey did it in New York. You know what I'm saying? I'll see you on the A. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that they do bounce back. But a key notable stat last night from that game was just the fact that the 76ers had 28 points off of those 18 turnovers that the Hawks had. And it was a very weird game just to see the carelessness that the Hawks had with some of those passes that what they were making. It just wasn't the smartest, decision making from the Atlanta Hawks. I don't know if they just got so much pressured from their double teams, from their great defense of the 76ers. But, at least we were able to see the fight and the heart that the Hawks have, which is still like a positive to take from this game, even though they did lose. The shots weren't falling from your star player, Trae Young. He had a slow night, or a really bad night in the sense of shooting 6 for 16, 1 for 7 from 3. We don't expect that from Trae Young, or maybe do we? I don't know. That's a great question, and that's what we're gonna have to watch down the stretch. But for me, I think we saw a regular performance from John Collins. Because I don't know, in that first series, we didn't really see him, go crazy and have that 20-pointer like he did in Game 1. But do we expect him to do, and be that second star for the Atlanta Hawks? I hope so. Maybe he turns up when they go back to ATL, but that's one question to look at. One thing to note, at halftime, the Hawks bench outscored Philly 32-0. 32-0 at halftime. The Hawks bench outscored Philly. But then in the second half, I don't know, man. Doc Rivers made a great change and gave this man Shake Milton some minutes, and he took advantage of it. 14, what was it? How many minutes did he have? I think, 14 minutes? 14 minutes, and he scored 14 points off the bench. In that second half, the 76ers ended up outscoring the Atlanta Hawks 26-17. And honestly, I was just surprised. I think their key note to victory was Shake Milton. Him coming out and just playing that second half and sparking for them, because it was a 2-point game at one point for the Hawks, and then out of nowhere, this man Shake just boom off the bench, lit a spark for these boys to just lock in defensively. And obviously, again, some of these shots weren't falling for some of these players on the Atlanta Hawks. But the fact of the matter is, this man Shake really took advantage of that. And I got to give credit where credit is due, because I was making some, I was mentioning how Doc was making some questionable calls and questionable coaching, but last night he definitely proved that. But one more key fact: their Philly starters outscored ATL the starters 92-53. Do I expect that to ever happen again? No, But the fact of the matter is that did happen, and that's kind of scary. What if Trae Young has another night like this? What if John Collins has another night like this? You can't. Danilo Gallinari had 21 and Kevin Huerter had 20. Somebody's going to have to step up. The question is who? Bogdan had 14. We expect him to have 20-something next game, hopefully. But somebody's going to have to step up for that squad if Trae's not having such a great night. So do I still think Atlanta's going to win this series? Absolutely, 100%. At least from what I'm seeing right now, I don't think Shake's going to come in and have that 14. Everybody else on the team, will have their 22 in Tobias, 21 in Seth. I think obviously Ben Simmons has anywhere between 15 and 20. Joel is clearly just too dominant in the paint. But their key to victory was really the fact of the matter that Shake Milton got that spark, that freaking, I don't know, that turned up this 76ers squad. Well, I just hope we do see a different Atlanta team in Game 3 in Atlanta. But, I mean, other than that, man, this should be a great series.
Looking at the Philadelphia 76ers, I'm starting to question whether or not Joel Embiid is actually injured because the guy playing on a partially torn meniscus, 39 points in Game 1, 40 in Game 2. The guy is just an unstoppable force. Obviously, Clint Capella cannot handle Joel Embiid in the paint, and that's where Joel Embiid's making his bread and butter down there. And obviously, Ben Simmons did not have to play at a high level in Game 2 because they were up by so much. They didn't really have to rely on him for scoring load, which I don't even expect him to be. I expected at least around 10 points, at least that.
Yeah.
4 points. If he scores around 4 points every game, I don't think that's going to get them a couple wins as much as they think that it might. Seth Curry is obviously coming on well for the 76ers at the moment. Had a really strong Game 1 and 2. Let's see how that translates on the road to Game 3. Tobias Harris is obviously doing his thing. As far as the Atlanta Hawks go, Trae Young obviously needs to play a lot better than he did yesterday. 21 points is not going to get it done if the Hawks want to win this series. And John Collins, what in the world happened to this guy? Disappeared. Yep. 22 points in Game 1, only had 8 in Game 2. That is definitely going to have to change for Atlanta if they want to win Game 3 at home. As far as the bench goes, you got key contributions from Kevin Huerter and Danilo Gallinari, so you really didn't have to rely that heavily on the starters. I mean, obviously, you would want the starters to score more than 53 points, but that's definitely not going to be the recipe for. You want Huerter and Gallinari to do their thing and then have the starters on top of that. Exactly. That's a recipe for success. Obviously, if your starters are not scoring the basketball well enough and your bench players aren't, you're not going to win the game because obviously you need the starters to hit your shots. But as they get ready to go into Game 3, I believe that Atlanta will win the next game just because they're going to be at home now. They're going to have the home crowd behind them. They're not going to be chanting any crazy things at the Hawks players. Maybe they're going to switch it up and chant crazy things at the Sixers players. Mm-hmm. So they just, in my opinion, the Atlanta Hawks, it's just a little bit of a setback. I don't see the starters playing that poorly like they did in yesterday's game. So I think Atlanta's going to bounce back and take Game 3.
No, I completely agree. I just even if they get like a 11 to 15 range from Huerter or Gallinari, I think they just need obviously that 20 to 23 from Bogdan that we usually see, and that 25 to 30 from Trae Young. And I think even we don't really need that much from John Collins. Obviously, it would be nice because he's supposed to be that second star, but if he gets anywhere from 12 to 15 as well, I think collaboratively they have a deep team in the sense of players to be able to score the rock. It's just a matter of hitting those shots and really locking in and coming together to just solidify those games. It was just really those turnovers, man. Those turnovers really affected their squad and allowing the 76ers to have 28 points off of those turnovers.
I believe for another key thing is for the Hawks. I don't know do you know exactly what happened to DeAndre Hunter?
It's some sort of knee soreness. I'm not exactly too sure what the actual injury is. It's something with his knee. Let me see.
They need to just shut him down for the rest of the season because the guy's been injured way too much this season, and he's one of your young players that has potential to be a star in the league. You don't want him to mess up his knee now and then regret it later. So just shut him down. at least for the rest of this series, to see how his knee responds. But they're going to need him for the future, and obviously he's a missing piece that they were missing in Game 2. And probably, I think even though they won Game 1, his defense and offensive scoring as a starter is definitely sorely missed for Atlanta.
So all I'm seeing right now is some sort of knee swelling following Game 5 of the Knicks series. So they're trying to be extremely cautious to not jeopardize his future moving forward. So they're taking extreme precaution on DeAndre Hunter's knee right now, which is why he's not obviously playing. But other than that, there's nothing else to it.
All right. As the Atlanta Hawks lose 118-102 and the Philadelphia 76ers take the 1-1 series tying going to Game 3 in Atlanta, we now move on to the game of the night. The Utah Jazz won 112-109 against the Los Angeles Clippers. The Los Angeles Clippers coming off 48 hours since Game 7. Utah now leads the series 1-0. Donovan Mitchell, obviously the key player for the Utah Jazz, especially in that second half, had 45 points, 5 assists, and 3 rebounds. Bojan Bogdanovic had 18 points and 5 rebounds. Rudy Gobert had 10 points and 12 rebounds. Jordan Clarkson off the bench had 18 points, 1 assist, and 2 rebounds. As far as the Los Angeles Clippers go, Kawhi Leonard had a pretty pedestrian-like game, had 23 points, 3 assists, and 7 rebounds. Playoff P, or Pandemic P.
Yes, sir.
Paul George had 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 assists. Luke Kennard off the bench had 18 points, 2 rebounds. Again, the guy's been a really good scoring punch for the Clippers. And we had a DeMarcus Cousins sighting yesterday. Only played 4. I don't know why they didn't play much more in the second half. He had played only 4 minutes, had 6 points and 3 rebounds. Maybe they think about putting him more in the games, especially in the at least in the third quarter. You could have thrown him in there to bang low with Rudy Gobert, maybe stretch the floor a little bit, something that Zubac can't do. But as far as that goes, Sebastian, what do you think about the Utah Jazz coming back in the second half and defeating the Los Angeles Clippers? And is it just because the Clippers got lazy on defense in the second half, or is it because of Donovan Mitchell's greatness that propelled the Jazz to the second half and with the victory in Game 1?
Well, let me just mention that Boogie thing. I don't know, man. That second half spark for that Utah Jazz team, I think it was a 12-2 run or 14-2 run to start out that third quarter. I don't think Boogie would be able to maintain that because honestly, I just don't think he's fast enough in the sense of his ability on the defensive side of things. Sure, maybe if it was a half court offense or a half court defense, absolutely would be able to, compete with Rudy. But the fact of the matter is that game was back and forth. The Clippers would go, miss a shot, easily fast break transition to Donovan Mitchell and whatnot, being able to get a bucket so easily. And I don't know, man. It was just it's something that Boogie, obviously, it would be nice to have that presence down there. But at the same time, you got to look at the fact how fast-paced Utah was playing. Was it because of the shots not falling? Maybe. But at the same time, I don't know, man. Donovan Mitchell was just in his bag. It was a different sighting, man. I don't know. But not to get into this game, Montana, I did mention last episode that they would need huge contributions from Mr. Marcus Morris and from Mr. Reggie Jackson. And what happened, Montana?
Well, here's my thing. They only lost by 3 points, so that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. They were up 13 points going into the second half.
Listen. They were up so big and blew the lead in the third quarter. All right, now calm down. I'll get into answering that. Reggie Jackson having 9 points, fouling out, not something that we needed to see. Marcus Morris shooting 1 for 9 from 3, 4 for 14 from the field, not something that we need to see. You know what I mean? Them both having under 10 points is mind-boggling to me. How are you going to have a Game 7 performance like Marcus Morris did and come out Game 1 and just shoot 1 for 9? Is it because they're gassed? Maybe. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that Game 1, after coming off of that Game 7 series, maybe he's tired, fine. But if I don't see a better performance from both of them, then we're going to have a problem. But to answer your question about, it being a 3-point game, you got to think about Mike Conley's not playing. That game was only close because Donovan Mitchell had to carry that load without Mike Conley, being able to play. Did everybody else contribute? Jordan Clarkson, 18 points. Didn't shoot the ball that great. Joe Ingles didn't shoot the ball that great. Had 8 points. Did what he needed to do. Rudy Gobert, 10 points. Did what he needed to do. Bogdan, you know what I'm saying? Or Bogdanovich, sorry. Did what he needed to do. I think it's Bojan, right? Bojan Bogdanovich. And then Royce O'Neal. Like I said, all of them boys were like high scoring points. No. Royce O'Neal and Joe Ingles had 8 points. But it was, that contribution defensively to help that team moving forward. But also, Mr. Pandemic P, Montana, I mentioned at one point we were going to see it. All right, at one point. But are we going to use the excuse as he was gassed, or this entire team is gassed from Game 7? Fine. I'll be nice. I'll be a nice guy. You can have it. They're gassed. They're tired. Let them get another day of rest or whatever the case may be, and then they'll come out, bounce back, and be crazy. But as of right now, I'm not giving them the excuse. I think Utah still wins this in 6. A notable little thing right there. It was nice to see D-Wade coach Donovan down the stretch in that early fourth quarter.
It was not nice to see.
Wait. But it breaks my heart, seeing him celebrate for a team other than the Miami Heat. You know what I'm saying? The reason I think it is nice to see is simply because I understand now exactly why D-Wade chose the Jazz, and that's because he sees himself in Donovan Mitchell. That comparison of D-Wade and Donovan Mitchell was spot on. Absolutely spot on. The only difference is Donovan Mitchell, obviously, I think we can both say this, is a way better shooter than D-Wade, that D-Wade was. But that comparison of that grit, grind, heart, wanting to win ball games, doing everything he can, that's D-Wade in all aspects of the ball game. You know what I mean? So I give credit to D-Wade. I give credit to Donovan Mitchell. The man really got in his bag. What a hell of a game he played. You know what I mean? He really locked in, went down like early in that third quarter to just spark off coming out of halftime. He just sparked that, and he was just going crazy. He really carried that load, especially with Mike Conley not being there. But I don't know, man. Everybody, like I mentioned, everybody just played their part. One thing to note, though, 100% is Ty Lue was mentioning this in his presser. The fact that in that second half, Utah came out strong defensively and had a completely different approach and just started playing 3/4, they were literally playing 3/4 pressure on that defense. Instead of playing full court, instead of playing half court defense, they were playing 3/4. They were applying pressure on the baseline, on the sideline, everywhere. You know what I'm saying? They were really locking in there to make sure that they solidified. Obviously, it was a 3-point game, but they tried their best and they gave everything they could to lock that dub in and secure this win, especially for Donovan Mitchell and his great performance.
Yeah, so as far as the Clippers go, they were up 60-47 going into the second half.
Yep.
Kawhi Leonard, defensively, the Clippers were on point, but partially it's because the Jazz were missing a lot of shots. That wasn't necessarily how the Jazz usually play in the first half. They were missing a ton of three-pointers. Rudy Gobert was taking forever to get going. Obviously, we knew that Mike Conley was not available to play, but Donovan Mitchell turned it back around in that second half. He really played like he wanted it bad. I don't know if Quinn Snyder said something to him in that halftime that got him going, or if D-Wade on that sideline got him going, like with a pep talk or something. I know they were TNT played a couple tracks last night from him and Quinn Snyder talking on the bench, one-on-one conversation, and then D-Wade telling him some stuff on the sideline also. But the game really came down, for me at least, at that final possession of the game. The Clippers had one timeout in the bag. They declined not to use it. They let Paul George and Kawhi Leonard do their thing, come down the court, and both of them passed back and forth to each other. Each one of them passes that shot up to let Marcus Morris get blocked in the corner for a 3-point attempt. So it was just a disappointing way to end that game for the Los Angeles Clippers. And I expect more from Ty Lue in that situation as the head coach. You got to see, man. Like, you have to see when Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are getting smothered. You have to call that timeout. You have to call that timeout right there. You don't want Marcus Morris shooting that shot. You don't want him shooting the 3-pointer to win the game, especially with Gobert on him. Call the damn timeout. You have a couple seconds at least to set up a play, to at least get one of those guys open. at least a better shot attempt for Kawhi Leonard or Paul George, even though Paul George was missing a ton of threes yesterday. It's just a disappointing outcome for the Clippers overall. They should be discouraged. They had a 13-point lead going into that second half. This might have been their best chance to get a game, at least, and set the tone in game one. And they really folded really hard in that second half, and it was just disappointing to see.
Yep. No, I completely agree. It comes also from, and no shot, this is absolutely no shot at Reggie Jackson. He struggled, and that had nothing to do with his offensive presence defensively. The man really fouled out in 17 minutes of gameplay. Him not being there down the stretch was something that they needed to get stops, and he just wasn't there for them. Obviously, that's going to be completely different in the next game. At least I hope so. I completely agree with you with Ty Lue not being able to, not calling that timeout. Off that miss, they had 16.8 seconds left, I believe, on that clock. They bring the ball up, and they just went Kawhi, Paul George. Paul George is smothered, back to Kawhi. Kawhi smothered. They're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Then 5 seconds, they give it on Marcus Morris. He was open for a second. Then Rudy Gobert, Mr. Defensive Player of the Year, closes out, and Marcus Morris tries to do a little sidestep, gets blocked, and then at that point, that's the ball game. Ty Lue has to know at least bring the ball up to half court. You'll have probably, 15, 14 seconds left on the clock. Wait, call that timeout. You have one in your bag. You know what I'm saying? Call that timeout, set a play up, and let's get it going. There's no reason that Marcus should be taking that shot, especially when he's going 1 for 9. You know what I mean? You need, even if Pandemic P, had a clutch bucket to put them to 109, 112. He had a clutch bucket right before that last possession. He hit a 3 to put it to this score. You know what I'm saying? So you make a play, you set up Pandemic P, you set up Mr. Kawhi Leonard and provide that opportunity rather than allowing. I would have much rather Nicholas Batum shooting that shot than Marcus Morris. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what went down. I don't understand at all. But another thing to mention, I forgot to mention it. I'm glad you did though. I don't know what really sparked it at halftime. Like you said, that Quinn Snyder, that man had to have some crazy talk to Donovan Mitchell in the cast in that freaking locker room, because wow. That had to be the sparker right there for that team to come out so aggressive and so dominant like that. To win that third quarter 32-19 just blew my mind. I was not expecting that. You know what I mean? But to mention and to note, I still got Utah in 6. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm going to say right there. I got Utah in 6. I think next game we'll see a more dominant and a regular performance from both Marcus Morris and Reggie Smith. Oh my God, I almost called him Reggie Smith. Reggie Jackson. And I think it should be, if anything, a Clippers potential win or just a better shooting performance from both parties, from the Clippers, and a better and hotter start, hopefully, from the Utah Jazz rather than being so slow to get into rhythm.
Yeah, of course. I think obviously the Clippers now are going to have to rethink some things as they go into game 2, because they're definitely that was their chance. That was one of their chances to steal a game on the road. Obviously, It's going to be easy for them at home, but stealing a road game is a huge difference in a series. So I guess we'll see what happens as we move on through the series. I still think the Clippers are going to win this in 7, just because of Kawhi Leonard, and I know what he's made of, and I know he's going to pull out of this. 23 points was not his game yesterday, and he'll definitely step up in game 2. So as we get ready to move on to the next topic, but before we do that, I want to remind you guys, if you guys are listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you guys are listening to the show on audio formats, if you haven't followed already, or liked or dropped a follow, or rated or reviewed the show on Apple, or reviewed the show on Spotify, please do so. It helps us a lot, and it really means a lot to me and Sebastian that you guys are listening to the show. So thank you for that. And as far as the video listeners go, if you guys are listening to the playback on YouTube, like the video, subscribe, leave a comment, tell us how we can improve on the show. We really appreciate all the feedback, and we're looking forward to implementing this on the future podcasts. So, Sebastian, as we move away from that, we get ready for game 2 tonight for the Phoenix Suns and the Denver Nuggets. The Phoenix Suns are up 1-0. Game's at 9:30 Eastern time on TNT. So, Sebastian, Nikola Jokic was named MVP yesterday. He's the first center to do it since Shaquille O'Neal.
It's her.
So, as MVP, will Nikola Jokic find a way to lead his team to win in game 2 and tie the series, sending it back to Phoenix.
All right. So here's my thing. First of all, like you mentioned, big congratulations to Mr. Joker and Nikola Jokic, and obviously the Denver Nuggets. His humble abode. Mentioned as he was giving his little speech, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. I want to thank you guys for, I know it's an individual award, but I got to thank you guys for putting me in this situation. Very humble dude. I love Nikola Jokic. Very big ups to him. Congratulations. Now to get in the game, I think the Nuggets need to be aggressive on both ends of the court. Offensively, they need to attack the basket. 6 free throws cannot and hopefully will not be allowed, and something that Mike has to talk to this team. Are they going to come out offensively and just spark and just attack the rim at ease or do something? Because 6 free throws, again, that cannot happen. You're not going to win a ball game if you shoot 6 free throws as a team. You know what I mean? So that's something that definitely needs to be addressed, something that needs to be talked about, as well as we saw in that game, some of those shots the Suns were taking were open. Obviously, some were made, some were also missed. So I think with watching film, I think Nathan mentioned it yesterday, just the rotations were just too slow. I think they'll fix that up and, get back into, Denver Nuggets basketball on both sides of the ball game. Like I mentioned, the free throws, MPJ just needs to have a better game. Ever since he had that crazy 6 3-pointers in that first half, he's just been trying to heat check everything. And he just takes contested. He's like, oh, I'm nasty. So I think MPJ needs to just get back into his play style, play the way he has been, and not force up contested and stupid shots. He does that, and we get a more dominant approach from Nikola Jokic, especially a day after he won that MVP award. I think we see a closer game. I think we see a better game from the Denver Nuggets, as well as obviously my key factor, my dude, Mr. Monte Morris. I don't think we see another poorly game played by him. 1 for 10, not something we should be seeing or expected to see from him, as well as obviously Mr. Austin Rivers should step up. Maybe not have as much points, but defensively, close in and close out on the defensive side of the ball game. Now, for the Suns, I don't think we see Mikal Bridges have 23. You know what I'm saying? His range is between 15 to 18. But if he doesn't hit 23, I certainly don't think that both Cameron Payne, obviously, and Cameron Johnson are going to have the points that they had. I think both of them need average in the 12 to 15 range. If Mikal doesn't have that 23, I think Jay Crowder, I believe he shot 5 for 14 last game, finished with about 14 points. I think he needs to step up, have that 18 to 20 range, and obviously we'll figure it out by tonight. Is CP3 going to stay in his bag, or we're going to let Devin Booker just go off and spaz out and do what Devin Booker did against the Los Angeles Lakers? But like I mentioned yesterday, it kind of just the Suns play through whoever has the hot hand. Devin Booker, if he's hot, sparks for 30-something plus. If Chris Paul's hot, he's going to do his thing offensively, setting up players, doing their thing. You know what I mean? Cameron Johnson, whoever has that hot hand, whoever that matchup is they notice is easy to attack, they're going to take advantage of that. And I think we find out who exactly that player is going to that they're going to play through tonight. Whether that's DeAndre Ayton, D-Book, Chris Paul, like I mentioned. For sure should be an interesting one to watch. I'm excited. Obviously, I love the damn Phoenix Suns. I'm hoping the Nuggets make it a close one tonight. I'm hoping the Nuggets – honestly, I would not mind if the Nuggets split here tonight and get a win. That would be nice just because I would love to see this series get close and become a very interesting one. But to finish everything off, I still got the Suns in 6, and I still got the Suns in the NBA Finals.
So as far as the Denver Nuggets goes, they lost game 1 in the first round to the Portland Trail Blazers, and they won game 2. Michael Malone is a really good coach, and he finds a way to make adjustments and to fix things that they were doing wrong in game 1 that they could be doing better in game 2. So with that being said, I think Nikola Jokic is going to have a monster game today, and Michael Porter Jr. is going to wake up out of that thing that he thinks he could be a 3-point god. And he's going to actually do something good for the team by driving to the rim, shooting mid-range shots, getting easy shots instead of forcing dumb shots that he's been doing the last couple of games. And they're going to find Monte Morris is not going to have a game like he did in game 1. He's going to have somewhere between 15 and 20. I think that's going to be. I think that was the huge difference for the Denver Nuggets. They didn't have his scoring punch in game 1. If they had him scoring the basketball in game 1, it could have been a closer game. Who knows? Denver maybe would have won the game 1, So I think as far as the Phoenix Suns, I believe they're really good. Obviously, they're a really good team. Devin Booker is a superstar, and he's really like shining on the biggest stage now in the playoffs in his first ever playoff appearance. Chris Paul is playing really well. I didn't think he was going to play that great in Game 1, but obviously he's looking healthy now. So Game 2, I expect it to be somewhere between 15 and 25 points, somewhere in that range. Mikal Bridges, I don't expect him to have a great game in Game 2. I think last game was a fluke game for him. As far as DeAndre Ayton goes, maybe he gets somewhere between 10 and 20. But as far as that, I believe Denver is going to win tonight. I do think they're going to win. I think Nikola Jokic is going to have a huge game. Michael Porter Jr. is going to have a great game. Aaron Gordon is going to have his custom 15 to 20. Austin Rivers is going to play good defense, hit timely shots like he's supposed to, especially as a starting. I think he's the starting shooting guard or the start. No, he's starting shooting guard. So as far as Campundo goes, I don't know what they expect from him. He's always random at most parts of the game, but I do believe Denver's going to win. They're going to have to hit their shots because obviously the crowd in Phoenix is loud. You need to quiet them down early, and you need to get out to an early lead. If you let Phoenix get out to a 10-point lead in the first quarter, the game's probably going to be over at that point. You do not want to let Phoenix get any kind of life going into the second quarter. You want to take the game in the first quarter and make sure you send the message to the Suns that we're not going away lightly, that we're still a good team, that we deserve to be in this spot. We're not gonna let you guys push us around, and we're definitely not gonna go back home down 2-0, because if you go back home down 2-0, it's going to be an issue for the Phoenix Suns. I guarantee it's not going to be an issue for the Phoenix Suns. Sorry, it's going to be an issue for the Denver Nuggets if they're going back home 0-2, because if you let Phoenix get a game on the road, it's going to be over.
No, I completely agree. Two notable things, though, Montana. I ended up doing a little digging. Michael Porter tweaked his back in that first half in that Game 1 performance. And apparently at halftime, during warm-ups, he had a wrap around his back, and he was questionable of playing tonight. But Mike Malone said last night that he did speak to Michael, and they had a conversation. And from all the treatment that he's been getting, he does seem to appear like he will play tonight. But that is a note. I did not know that he tweaked his back. That is a notable little fact. Let's see how Michael Porter plays with that little back injury. Big thing, and this could be huge. I'm not even going to lie to you, this could be game-changing and series-changing for this Denver Nuggets squad. They potentially get Will Barton back tonight.
Okay, that's interesting.
He has not played since, I believe, April 23rd. Is that what I just read? April something is the last time that Will Barton played. And the fact that he might play tonight, ever since getting that, hurting that hammy, that would be definitely something to watch if he does get some minutes. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty much the fact that Will Barton might play tonight from some of these articles that I'm reading, and obviously MPJ is a little tweaked, so hopefully that doesn't affect MPJ too much, so he could lock back in, play smarter, and just get in his bag. And if Will Barton does play, I expect a very strong defensive performance, and as well as obviously a little nice offensive going for Will Barton.
If Will Barton plays offensively, that's going to give him a nice boost, especially because if he gets inserted, I'm assuming he would probably come off the bench to come back, because he hasn't played in a while. So I'm not assuming he's going to get his starting job back right away. But if he could play 15 to 20 minutes and give him at least 10 points, that's a big difference, especially for a bench player.
So yeah, I'm reading here. Mike Malone is not committed yet to giving Barton minutes right now in Game 2, but there's a chance he might see the court. But if he does not play tonight, he will. He's on track to play Game 3. So either way we see it, if he plays tonight, that'd be a huge spark for them, even if it's a couple minutes. And if he doesn't play tonight and he plays Game 3, I still think it's a huge spark for them and a huge potential season-changing decision.
Yeah, I guess we shall see. Sebastian, I guess you have the who do you have winning tonight?
Phoenix. It would be nice. It would be nice if the Nuggets do win, though. It'd be nice if the Nuggets do win. So this does be interesting. So I mean, honestly, I don't really care who wins tonight. I still have Phoenix in 6, like I said. But I would hope, coming off of that MVP, award announcement, the Denver Nuggets come out strong and they win tonight. I would hope so, but I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
So I think Nikola Jokic is going to have a great game today. I do think all of the other Denver Nugget role players are going to have a great, solid game around Jokic that they're going to be able to. Because looking back in game one, they had that game going into the second half. They're up by a point. It wasn't like they didn't keep it close going into the second half. The Suns just got hot in the second half, and they pulled away late. So I do think that the difference this time is that Denver's not going to let that game get away from them. It's going to be a closer game than we expect. Denver is going to make a couple more shots than Phoenix will. I think Jokic is going to play better defense on DeAndre Ayton, and I have Denver winning this game by at least 4 or 5 points, and they're going to send it back home to Denver tied up 1 game apiece.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. And if not, then I don't think – I know I said that in game one or before game one that there would be no blowouts. I just don't see a blowout happening. I just don't. I'm hoping, Jokic gets back in his bag. I hope they get aggressive offensively. Like I mentioned, 6 free throws cannot happen. As long as they fix that and they shoot more and they attack the rim at ease, or at least attack the rim and attempt to get free throws done, I think it's a completely different ball game. And, tonight's going to be a good one. It's going to be a very fun night to watch some hoops and watch these two teams battle it out. I'm definitely excited to watch it.
So I guess if we don't have any more topics to talk about today, I think that's going to be it for today's show, guys. If you haven't already, drop a follow on the audio platforms, wherever you guys listen to your podcasts. Give us a rating/review. Tell us what we can improve on. Tell us if you like the show or not, if you don't like the show or not. If we need to change the structure of the show, let us know. If you guys are listening on the video platform on YouTube, subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. If you haven't followed already on Twitch, follow us on Twitch. So, Sebastian, you guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Wildcard Movies. Sebastian, where can they find you?
Rabbit FL everywhere. Yes, sir.
All right, so I guess that's it for today's show, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for watching Unspoken Rules.
Peace.